Well, I already felt awful because I knew that our age difference would be an issue. But, realizing that he was a professor kind of worried me because I don't want to mess up his career. But finding out that he's married, it makes me feel like a horrible person because I didn't know, and now it's like I feel like if I would be a homeworker, and if I knew that he was married, I would have never even engaged him at all. And he doesn't know that I know, so I don't know how to go about it. I don't know what to do.
Okay. So when you say age difference, what is the age difference?
He is 27.
Okay. He's 27. And refresh my memory, how old are you again?
I am 18.
18. So almost, it's about what, 9 years? Okay. All right. So when you said he doesn't know that you know what's going on.
Right. I realized it because I was walking to class with one of my friends, and we're different majors. I am a psychology major, and they're an engineering major. And I never go to that area of campus, but she was talking about a professor and how he's a really good teacher, and says his name, his full name, and I just kind of worried, and I was like, it couldn't be the same person. So I see all the pictures of the faculty members, and it's him. And then she starts talking about him even more, going more into depth about how he is and how he's really cool and everything. And then how at one of the faculty meetings or one of the meetings, groupings that they went to, his wife was there. So she mentioned the wife too. And so at that point, my head was already spinning, and kind of managed to make an excuse so I can leave instead of having to go into the engineering building with her before he saw me, before I knew. And I didn't even tell her because I'm worried about what she'll think. She'll probably think that I already knew he was married. And I don't know, I just feel like I would get a lot of judgment at this point now.
So let me ask you, how did you feel when you actually saw that he was married? How did that, you said your head was spinning, but, walk me through your emotions at that time.
I felt betrayed. He just seemed so sincere and genuine. And knowing that, it's now seeing what kind of guy he really is, what kind of guy he's capable of being. And then thinking about, his wife and his family and everything that he's jeopardizing at this point, I feel completely shocked, and I felt betrayed because I really liked him, and now I'm the bad person. I'm the one that would end up like the bad person in this case. So.
And why do you think that you would be the bad person when you were blindsided?
Because he's older and I'm younger, and he could possibly flip the tables around on me, saying it was me that was going after him, or the fact that he was that good of a liar that I didn't even know. He can change up the story completely. He could say just about anything to save his relationship, his marriage. And I feel like whenever cases like this happens, it always seems like the other person is always blamed the most. So that's why I would feel like I'm the bad person, and I was the one that ruined a relationship. I was the one that ruined a marriage, and because I'm way younger.
Okay. So how are your feelings towards him? Do you still have intimate feelings towards him?
Right now I just feel anger towards him.
Okay.
A lot of anger.
So I would like to kind of develop a plan to kind of see what we'll be addressing each time you come in, to see if we can kind of start working towards those. Is that okay?
Yes.
So, okay, so when you first started this relationship with your boyfriend, he still is right now, right? You didn't know he was a professor, and you didn't know he was married. And so you're kind of at a standstill is what I'm hearing. Does that sound correct? Or you feel betrayed, you're angry. What would be the ideal outcome in this situation for you?
Well, at this point, just because I know what kind of person he is, not even being with him, and at this point, letting the relationship go, and just moving on, maybe even possibly telling his wife.
Okay, so how would moving on look like for you? What would you do to try to move on?
Well, I mean, I do have all my friends who would support me. Maybe not necessarily, like I said, I haven't really told them yet because I feel like they might feel resentment or any type of judgment. I don't want any of that. So, but I know that just spending time with them, not even having to talk about it with them, having their support, going out, the fact that I am younger, maybe possibly I do work out and I do like playing sports, so that's always been kind of my way to channel my anger and letting it go, focusing more on my studies. I think those are good things to keep my head distracted and my mind distracted.
Okay. So were you in love with him at one point?
I was, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I am young, and it was only a couple months that we started, and because I met him outside of school, that's why he talked about work, but never really mentioned it. I went more into depth. So, yes, I was. So I feel like I did fall for him far too quickly. So cutting off conversation contact with him would also be helpful.
Okay, good. Definitely sounds like it could be a first step in your process. So, all right. So we looked at what your ideal outcome would be, and that's pretty much breaking up with him, cutting out all kinds of ties or communication with him. So let me just write this down. Not communicating with him. Okay. And so then we talked about you pretty much moving on with your life. So you identified that you do have friends here to support you, which is, I think that's a really good thing. Okay. So we'll talk to your friends. You say you like to kind of work out. Do you work out anytime? What times throughout the week do you work out right now?
In the mornings.
In the mornings?
Early in the mornings.
How often?
Almost every single day. Probably.
Every day, okay.
Throughout the week, not the weekends.
Every day of the week. Okay, very good. And you play a lot of sports?
Yes.
Okay, and you would like to focus more on your studies. So you actually, it looks like you have a lot of different self-care things already lined up for you. So I don't think, doesn't seem like it'd be too difficult for you to move on. But let's say that this outcome wasn't exactly by you breaking up with him. Let's just say hypothetically that he did not take it well and he wanted to continue contact with you, because that's an option. And I think we need to look at it from both sides. So if he decided, he's still going to contact you, he's still going to text you, or he shows up to your dorm room, we need to think about avenues of where you can still be safe and kind of what to do in those situations, okay? So,
I mean, there's times where I've known for about a good 2 weeks now, and I think the anger now is just building up. There's been points where I'm in class and I see myself like going up to his office and or going to his classes and just like letting him know how I feel, like completely letting all the anger out.
Okay.
And I don't want to do that, but it's getting to the point where I need to tell someone because I haven't told someone.
Okay.
And I am worried about how he would react, or if he would wouldn't want to let this go. So I don't know how to go about that.
I would say you made the right step with coming into our agency, first of all. So you are letting someone know, and at least you have this time that you can kind of, express your feelings and what you're really dealing with. Now, when you say as far as wanting to go to his office or his classroom, how would that look like? Because there's two sides to that. And I definitely wouldn't want you to do anything out of anger that could negatively reflect you, but what do you think, what would that accomplish if you were to go to his class, and tell his whole class, or if you went to his office?
Yes. I mean, in a sense, it wouldn't be good if I did that because everyone would know his private life, and but really, I just want people to know how bad of a person that he's been. I guess that's what I think. Sometimes that's what the thoughts that come in my head, that someone, or at least someone, should know how bad of a person he is, because it just seems like after my friend told me like, oh, he's a professor, and it seems like now he came more into like conversation about, I've heard more of him, how great of a person he is, and how this and that, how he's such a great professor, and it's made me even more angry because I don't think this about him anymore. I don't think that he's a great person. I think that he's a liar, that someone should know what he's been doing and how he really is. So I think that's why I get these thoughts that I just need to go expose the person that he is, the real person that he is. And I think that's why that's why I go out and I go hang out with my friends, or I go work out, because I don't want to act upon these feelings of anger that I have.
Should we maybe look at some of your anger issues? Would you like to do that while we're in here? And that could be another goal that we establish to help you with how to handle the anger, because anger is a very natural response. But I think the way we handle our anger is very important. So that could definitely be something that we can work on. Now, I'll tell you, working with anger, it's not going to happen overnight, and you're going to have to allow yourself the time that it takes to really thoroughly go through the process, okay? Because you could have, ideal outcome, you've broken everything off with him, but that anger still might remain. And so those are things that we're going to have to work on to get you to, eventually maybe forgive him, if that's something that you want to do, but really addressing the anger so that it doesn't overtake you. So I think these are really great goals, and I believe that you're on the right process, or the right steps to going through them. So let's make this more tangible. So we're going to meet next week. what can you do within this week's time frame as to before we meet again, what do you think you would like to do with what you presented and what we're discussing? What do you think would be ideal?
At least by this time, I would like to address what I know of him to him.
To him. So speaking
Yes.
to him.
Yes.
Okay. So speaking, what's his name again?
His name is Ezra Fitz.
Ezra Fitz. Never heard that name before. How do you spell that?
EZRA and then Fitz, FITZ.
Okay, wow. He sure has a different name, doesn't
Yes.
he? That's something we can laugh about, right?
Yes.
Okay, so speaking to Ezra Fitz before you come back in.
Yes.
I think that would be your first step. Do you want to speak to him alone?
Yes.
Okay. And do you feel safe to be alone with him?
I think so. I think because he doesn't know that I know.
Okay.
So I don't think he would. I mean, at this point, if he would get angry, I don't think it would be because of me. It would be because of what he's doing.
Okay.
So I feel safe enough to go up to him and talk to him or meet up with him and let him know how I feel and what I know of him. So.
And where are you going to suggest that you meet with him?
I would want somewhere public, but just because I don't know how that could go, maybe privately in his apartment or something, maybe letting one of my friends know that I'm going to go hang out with someone, or maybe it would help by telling one of my friends.
Beforehand, Ellie. Okay, well that's definitely one of your options. And if you choose to do that, then maybe you could tell them before you talk to him, so that way they're at least knowing that you're going over there. Or in your apartment or his apartment?
His
apartment, okay. So I think that would be probably safe, so that way at least someone knows where you're at. So I think that's great. I think that if you meet with him before we come back, then we can kind of talk about you moving on. You then enjoying the things that you like to do, and really starting to take your mind off of him. But again, now we do have to remember that if for whatever reason it doesn't go as planned, you need to be prepared for the opposite, just in case, okay? And we definitely can talk about that if that's the case when you come back in next week. But if not, then we're going to follow suit with really seeing how your support network and all of the things that you've developed for self-care, how they're going, and if that's enough, okay? And then I definitely want to address your anger, okay? But I have like a handbook that we can start off with the anger. So you can actually take that home today. But for right now, your first little task, your little homework assignment really is to go ahead and speak to Ezra Fitz. And, if this is your decision, right, to break it off with him, then let's go ahead and move forward with that decision. And then once you come back in, we'll talk about those things, and we will work on the anger management. Now, you mentioned that you didn't want to be the bad guy, and you didn't want to be the one to break up the home and different things. But I want to ask you, why are you really concerned about that when you were the one betrayed? You did nothing wrong. So, what's your concerns regarding what people will think of you?
Well, I think I really think about his life, and after I found out that he was married, I looked more into it, and I just thought it was weird that he was married because I had been to his apartment, but they're not living at the same place because she is actually
Okay.
a professor somewhere else. So that's the little I know of her. But the reason I feel like I would be a bad person and I really want to tell his wife is because my parents, my dad was unfaithful to my mom, and I know that when that happened, all the everything or all the blame got put on obviously the other woman, and even though obviously I was angry because that other woman wasn't my mom, now I feel like I'm placed into that position, and now I realize I'm probably going to be the one that's being blamed for it. And so, in a sense, I kind of see her side of it, the woman that my father was with was seeing, and I think that's why I just don't. I've already been placed in this position, but at this point, I just want to do the least harm and probably what's best for everyone at this point. And
so, how would you even begin to notify her?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to get a hold of her or contact her. I feel like I would have to do this without even letting him know, or maybe I don't even know how he would react to me wanting to tell her. Yeah, he might not. Obviously, he might not take it well. So I feel like I would have to do this without him knowing. Maybe start off by trying to find her contact information. That's one way. I haven't really thought about how I'd even approach that to her.
Okay. Well, I want you to think about that choice. But the first step, again, we're going to go ahead and speak with him. But I want you to, before you or after you speak to him, I think we meet, today is Wednesday, we meet on Friday. So after you speak with him, then I'd like you to kind of come up with a little list of pros and cons on deciding to talk to her, okay? Because ultimately I care about your well-being. And I understand that you want to reach out to her, but I care more right now about you as my client, okay? And I want you to do what's best for you. So I want you to come up with a list of pros and cons on deciding to tell her. And is this, you wanting to tell her? Is this based off of what you've experienced in the past? Is this based off of your anger? So just kind of think about all those things. And you're going to bring that with me on Friday as well. And we'll talk about all those things, okay? So I'm excited because I know that, I know it's a very frustrating time, but I'm excited because at least we're going into the direction that you would like to go, okay? And I want to see you overcome these, especially for your well-being, okay? So let's see. So we're going to go more into detail with the workbook that I'm going to hand you. So actually, the receptionist out front does have the workbook. So we've already made the appointment, but you just let her know that, that you need a copy of the anger management workbook, but you don't even have to open it up yet. But it's just for you to have for when we start up again, okay?
Okay.